Ladies and gentlemen, North America is back and better than ever. We had a week off because of Thanksgiving, but these drivers are not going to let that keep them down. Hello everybody, my name is Nick Amon, and I'm going to welcome you to tonight's broadcast live from Silverstone, one of the most famous circuits in the world. I don't even think it needs an introduction with how well it's known. You've seen it countless times before, and you'll see it countless more times by the time you get to the end of all things. But we are getting ready here for the mini endurance series. Now, things have been a little mixed up scheduling-wise from the last couple of weeks. We had a server outage for EU Race for their Monza race, I believe it was. So that had to get rescheduled, and then we ended up doing their mini endurance race here at Silverstone last week during Thanksgiving. North America got the night off. Because let's be real, if you're going to be stuffing your face with food for several hours, the last thing you want to do is sim race. You most likely want to take a nap, and I was one of those people. Because for the first time in, well, I don't even know how long it's been, I went to bed at 8:30, which was really weird, and I didn't really know how to process that. But I did. But we did the EU race earlier today at Monza, so they're all back on schedule. They'll be getting ready for the Nürburgring. And after tonight's mini endurance here with North America, they'll also be on schedule for the Nürburgring race. But, yeah, things are going to get pretty interesting. We had EU do this, and we had quite a surprising turnout of events, really. A lot of drivers who we thought we were going to be seeing up the front ended up towards the back. We had a couple of unexpected top threes, not just in the overall category, but even across all categories, Pro-Am and Amateur class. Some very surprising finishes, so we'll see if North America can get that. Sorry, quick message. But, yeah, no, it's looking to be a good one. The race at Monza for EU went a lot better than North America. If you guys remember from NA's time at the Temple of Speed, we didn't even make it to turn one. We got about, I think, maybe 80% of the way down the front straight, and then we decided that a safety car was needed. But with Silverstone, it's going to be a little bit different, ideally. Cops Corner, definitely a place we're going to see a lot of cars going wide at the start. My prediction, at least for what I've experienced when I've raced. We're actually going over the F1 start-finish straight right now. But we get the other half of the circuit to cross the finish line on. Looking back to last week, though, we had Gulzar winning it, of course, in standard fashion, then Clifford and Lovrink in the top three. In the Pro-Am, Clifford, of course, Davis and McAnulty, the top three there, and then the amateur class, Raworth, Wicks, and Dale. So very solid showing from a lot of these drivers. Mahoney here for Pro-Am just was outside of that top three last week, so he's going to be looking to make something happen with the Bentley. Currently down P17, though. We could be seeing some improvements. He is the highest rated amateur, although it is just barely enough than Wicks. Mahoney has a 59.66, Wicks with a 59.84, so very, very close between those two. Like I said before, we had that safety car before we even got to turn one. A couple of laps under safety car while we got things sorted out, and then right back up and running again. Clifford going from 4th to 2nd in that race. Very good job from him. Lovrink as well from 5th to 3rd. Good stuff from those drivers. Dornelis, though, a very shocking and I'd say quite upsetting performance from Brazilian. Started P9, didn't have the best qualifying, and then ended up DNFing before the end of the race. So he's gonna, I believe he's here in the server, although I could be wrong, doesn't look like it. No, it seems that the only Brazilians in the server, Fernandez and Mendina. If I check the sign-in sheet, I'm fairly certain he marked his attendance, but I could be wrong. I have been wrong before in the past, but a lot of things. So we'll see. Yeah, no, he's actually out this round. So he'll have a little bit of time before the Nürburgring. And then we had Dale ended up with no tires. So that was a bit of a problem, but we head over here into qualifying. Quick shout out, of course, to Simrigs for sponsoring Season 11 of the Octane Online Racing Sprint Series. if you're looking to upgrade your gear, well, if you happen to live in the land down under Australia and New Zealand, this Melbourne-based company has got you covered. And if you're a Patreon member, you get 5% off your purchase. Sim racing equipment is not cheap by any means, and I would highly suggest that, well, you take advantage of that. And if you're like me and you happen to live outside of Australia, or like some of these drivers who are actually, I believe, oh yeah, Tim Brook from the UK, shoot him an email and get yourself sorted out. I'm sure they'd be more than happy to do business with you. But of course, again, thank you to Simrigs for sponsoring Season 11 here of the Sprint Series. Out on track, though, was Clifford, who was out of the pit lane first, surprisingly. And by surprisingly, I mean, well, pretty much every single time something happens, whether it be free practice or qualifying, he's always the first one out. But it looks like it's actually going to be Thomas Pierce who's out to set the first lap. Driver's just taking right now, sort of warming up brakes, warming up the tires, and getting ready for an hour and a half of racing ahead. Now, we do a lot of hour-long races. If you look at the Super Sprint, we had one to start off the season, and we're going to have one to end the season at Kyalami. It's a 20-minute race and then a 40-minute race. So having an extra half hour kind of throws a wrench into things, because most drivers will get used to that hour, and, you know, you drive and you drive and you drive, 60 minutes passes, and the clock's still ticking. There's no checkered flag, there's no white flag. Your spotter isn't telling you that the leader's on his final lap or that you're on the final lap. And for some, that does throw them off a little bit, but I think most of these drivers will be all set and ready to go. And speaking of Kyalami, ladies and gentlemen, 25 hours from now will be the Kyalami 9-hour endurance race event. So if you're going to be racing in that, best of luck to you. I'm sure there's some drivers here on the grid tonight that after this, they're going to have to start getting those last little bits of practice in before they send it around that South African circuit. We won't see that one until the end of the season. I will be there. A couple of the other guys are going to be there. We're kind of just getting stints for the booth sorted out right now. But it is looking to be a pretty good event in just about a day. So I hope to see you all there. And speaking of scheduling, with the changes that we had, quote-unquote changes, to the season because of Thanksgiving, things are going to get a little bit hectic. I am fairly certain, and I could be wrong, that we will be finishing up the Sprint Series, I believe 2 or 3 days before Christmas. Although we could possibly have that changed a little bit. I think maybe a week or so prior, but it's going to be cutting it close. Actually, no, because today is the 1st, and then you go next week, that's the 8th, and the week after that is the 15th. Fairly certain, unless we do a bye week, but I don't know if we're going to do that. I know we're still kind of discussing it internally. But if we're not done by the 15th, then yeah, it's going to be that following Thursday, and at that point, I think it's going to be cutting it a little bit close, and I'm fairly certain a lot of these drivers don't want to be at home sim racing during the holidays. I think a lot of them might be going on vacations, visiting friends and family from other places, but we'll see what happens. I think we'll just try to stick to the schedule of getting it done 2 weeks or so before Christmas. That's going to be quite a sprint from here on out. But we're getting these first laps in. Hamza Golzar, pole position for the time being at 57.72. That's going to be half a second ahead of Flomger, 3/4 of a second ahead of Clifford, and then Pierce just a little bit under that second margin. And then Brook and Dag as well coming across the line. A very, very big gap between them. First place, Harder up there in that top 5.82 for him. Very solid first lap. Lamelin, provisional pole of 57.51. So we are going to be seeing a lot of good times coming in. Colin Johnson, that is not the correct livery. That is a livery I think I'm using when I drive Porsches. Because that does not look like option 13. I think there might have been something a little bit messed up, which is kind of upsetting because one of the drivers I wanted to talk about is actually Skylar Loverink. Loverink had a special livery for this event. His beloved cat Marshmallow they're gonna have to send Marshmallow over the Rainbow Bridge in a few days, and Loverick had sent a special commemorative livery. Unfortunately, the game, being the game it is, did not want to load it. Still rocking with the Arizona livery. Of course, Loverick, my condolences. I know what it's like to lose a pet. I'm sure we're all aware, especially hard when it's to cancer. It's never fun, but you know that Marshmallow had a damn good life, and I'm sure Marshmallow will be waiting for you. I don't know if Marshmallow has any musical talent, but if so, perhaps maybe some EDM in the future. Who knows? We'll have to wait and see. Loverick now, I think, still on a flying lap. Welcome in, Annihilantic. Yeah, we are. It took us a while. I mean, hey, man, listen, you got to think we had to get 27, 28 cars, because if you want to count the safety car, we had to get all those across the Atlantic. That takes a while, all right? Now, I'm not going to blame it on maybe some guy in a boat decided to, turn it 45 degrees, but, we could say that. Atlantic Ocean's kind of small. Maybe a little too small for the boat, but yeah, we're here eventually. Brian Rasco, of course, in the Bentley, so I'm sure he got himself across here no problem. Same with Eric Mahoney. So they probably just paddled on over with their entire crew in hand. But Skylar Lovering here out of the last corner, across the line, is going to go into a very damn good P3, a 57.64 to start it off. That is half a second off of Lamelin, but Lamelin's got just a little bit, a smidgety-digity under 700ths to Golzar. But we'll see where things go on. Ooh, a little bit of a roadside excursion there. Number 52 back to the pits, give it another shot. Braden Thompson in P13 right now, the Canadian. 1.7 behind. You see a lot of big gaps between these guys. But we'll see more of these faster laps coming in. You are right, Anile. It's COVID times. Gotta blame shipping. Gotta blame something. Can't be you. Never. But right now it's Lamelin, Golzar, Lovering, Flomger up into P4. Clifford, Brookharder, Carpenter, Scaptura, Briscoe, your top 10, and then it's Pierce, Medina, Thompson, Brown, Frizza, Johnson, Dag, Wicks, Wilson, and Hasser, the next 10 down, and then it's Boboletskos, Lutkis, Raworth, Mahoney, Sanchez, Rasco in the safety car, and I just saw somebody move on up. I don't know who it was. I think it might have been Fernandez. Possibly. We have Thomas Pierce stopping right in front of the flag stand, probably waving to the flagman. He's not waving to you, Pierce. He's just waving a flag around, but we appreciate that. P3 right now for the 131 Aston Martin. Heading back out for another lap, getting some free fresh tires and fuel. Looks like someone to keep Hamza honest is Lamelin new. Yes, relatively speaking, Lamelin is one of the newer drivers here. Actually, no, he is one of the newer drivers this season. Popped up and has really been doing quite a fair amount. Has had, I believe, a few top 3 finishes. Let me just double check my notes here, because I know I've written his name down somewhere. I just got to remember where it was exactly. Let's see. In the pro category, so very, very competitive already. Oh man, I know I wrote it down. I always write these things down. I'm good at this kind of stuff. I must have lied to myself. Oh well. Oh, I could have sworn I wrote it down somewhere. Whatever. Lamelin's a damn good driver. That's all I know. Golzar's on pole, 57.08, 17 thousandths ahead of Lamelin, who's warming up those tires right now, trying to get some heat into that rubber. And, well, get things moving and grooving. It's not that much of a gap, but in racing, that can be quite a lot of time. So Lamelin actually pulls off, letting some drivers through. So let's see, Colin Johnson here on an improvement right now, just about a 10th up. Could put him above Frizza, and if he really does well enough, he could also vault over Wicks. Wait, that might actually be his livery, because there's a Simrigs on it, and, I don't think it is. I think the livery that Johnson's using and the livery I use when I drive the Porsche have had some weird livery child I don't know. Looks sick, though. I always like that. I remember the first time I ever saw that kind of livery with the clawed mouth was when my dad showed me Sports Car GT. If anybody's old enough to remember that game, you are a legend. That was the first time I think I ever saw it, and I thought it was the coolest thing, and heck, I still think it's the coolest thing in the world. I will stand by that till the day I die, but Colin Johnson across the line is just going to tiptoe over Frizza up into P18 for the time being. Still just a little under 4:20 to go, where we're coming down off of that qualifying high. Matteo Scaptura up in P13 at the moment with a 52.30, or 58.34, excuse me. He could be looking at another position gained here. It's going to be very close, though, to Sanchez. If it's exactly a 10th, then he's only going to be about 5 thousandths ahead of the Mexican driver. Crosses the line, and wouldn't you know it, it's a 100th, in fact, between the two, going for another crack at a solid lap. That is definitely what we want to be seeing here. Some shuffling of the order. Thomas Pierce in P3. A 57.54 for him. He just finished out an outlap. You can see it there, the 2:19.96. Teleported back to pits, got some fresh rubber, got another nice fuel load, and went back out there. It's always faster than driving all the way back around, lose less time. He is a little under half a second, though, from Gulzar, and he's only 2/10 up, so even if he holds this improvement, it's not going to be enough to overtake. It's only going to be good enough for P3. Hayden Hunter as well, a very, very good showing. A little over half a second there, and with a 57.59. So we're looking at 500ths behind Pierce, but out of the final corner, Pierce goes. It's not going to be enough for an improvement, or for position improvement rather, but it is going to be a 57.25. Opens up that gap to Harder, closes it on Lamelin. Another driver on a massive improvement right now, Tim Brook, joining us from across the pond in Great Britain. I believe very good early morning to you. And he's about 6/10 up as he crosses the line. This is going to be a huge improvement. He is going to go right up into P4, 57.49. He was 6/10 better than what he did the last time, and that is a grand improvement. He is definitely going to be riding high off of that one. Matteo Scaptura has already overtaken Sanchez, but he wants to do a little bit more damage. So he does cross the line, opens up, or no, he doesn't. It looks like he went wide, actually. Yeah, he's his last was a 58.21 compared to a 58.23, but just a little bit wide at one corner is enough to throw you off. Austin Carpenter currently holding on to the last top 10 position here as he rounds that final corner. Across the line, he is just going to swap places with Clifford, making the top 9 positions all pros. And then from 10 to 14, it's Pro-Am, and then Medina way down there away from all of his pro buddies. He's going to have to do better than Clifford if he wants to join them in that top 10. But we have got improvements across the board. One of them being this man right here, Nate Lamelin. He's got about a 10th here. It's going to be enough for pole position unless he's gone off the track somewhere. Across the line, and it's provisional pole for number 11 here, besting the Canadian Gulzar. 600ths of a second. Gulzar's in the pit right now. And for Gulzar, that is going to be it for qualifying. Same for Lamelin. That was the last lap. There's not going to be enough time to improve. Thomas Pierce, 10th up, really on the inside. Crosses the line, a 57.1. Will not be enough to push him up the starting order, but he'll be more than happy to take that. Ronan Medina joining us from Brazil. Crosses the line. It's only a P15, but he is on another flying lap. This is going to be crucial for him to try and get somewhere that is considered a bit more productive than P15, but it is the mini enduro, so there is plenty of time to get things sorted out and try to gain some speed. Hayden Harder, a slight improvement for him. This could possibly put him in front of Tim Brook as he crosses the line, and he will. 15 thousandths of a second, and actually gets there just in time. He'll have another chance at a lap. The Citrus definitely giving him the energy to keep going. We'll keep an eye on him and see if he can improve Austin Carpenter as well on his final flying lap, and he's running it wide, and I think that might be it. I don't think that this lap is going to count. As he crosses the line, no, he will not. It's almost 3/10 faster, but you saw him go wide there at the final corner. That's going to be it, unfortunately. For him, we have Andrew Wilson for the Purple Cobras. Oh, very good improvement right up into P18 for the Pro-Am driver. He's probably thinking that's a lot more like it. Probably having his POV streamed on ESPN 8, of course. Definitely not sponsored. Thomas Dagg here up to P16 from all the way back in P28. Very good showing of 58.69. Nice time. Put him way up, and we just saw someone behind him improve. That wasn't Sanchez, I don't think. No, Jonathan Clifford here, P11. A solid start, though. Sanchez actually, yeah, was Sanchez into the top 10. Very surprising. So Clifford is 2/10 up. Could possibly pip his Lamborghini into the top 10, and he does, just on the inside line. He knows the checkered flag is out, and it's going to be the 998 Lamborghini, and another very unsurprising top 10 start here. Pushes Carpenter out. So despite all of those pro drivers in the top 10, only 2 of them are Pro-Ams. And Hayden Harder, the last driver out on track here. 3/10. This is going to be a pretty good improvement. Is it going to be enough to overtake Pierce for P4, though? That is the big question. He's 3/10 up, crosses the line, and unfortunately he will not. He's going to miss out on that P4 by 1/100th of a second. Exactly, but that is going to do it for qualifying. It's Lameland, Gulzar, Lovering, Pierce, Harder, Brooke, Fernandez, Flomger, Clifford, Sanchez, your top 10. Very close between all of these guys. Incredible stuff. And as always, ladies and gentlemen, we're going to take a nice little stroll on through the grid here, as we normally do at the start of these races, and see what everybody's rocking with. So it's Lameland on top. We have not seen him take pole position at all, I think, this season here in the OOR. And this may be a start of new things. Hamza Gulzar joins him on that front row. Skylar Lovering, unfortunately, with the livery that I wasn't looking for, up in a very solid P3, though. Great stuff from there. Going to look to carry that throughout this next 90 minutes. It's Thomas Pierce on that second row, and then it's going to be Harder and Brooke on the third row. So we have some very, very solid competition here as we get up the grid. And then it's going to be Fernandez and Flomger 7 and 8. Jonathan Clifford and Eduardo Sanchez. I will never, ever stop feeling mixed feelings about the weed machine of Eduardo Sanchez, but he's got it. He's rocking, he's rolling with it, and I got nothing but respect for the man. Carpenter and Thompson behind them. Mateo Scaptura and Keith Briscoe will make it 13 and 14. Rona Medina and Thomas Dagg are sitting comfortable there on the 8th row of the grid. Tadas Lutkis and Chris Frizza behind them. Wilson and Brown will round out the next 10 drivers. Wicks, Johnson, the 2 Porsches on that 11th row of the grid. Rasco, Mahoney, Dave Hasser in the Send Nudes mobile. And then I believe Baba Let's and Sam Raworth in the coolest looking livery. I know it's a Ferrari, and I know it's got the Ford GT livery on it, but come on, you can't hate that. That looks beautiful, but not as beautiful, of course, as our patented Simrigs safety car driven by, well, who knows? Some say he's a sim racing experiment gone wrong, and that he only ever talks in Motec. We're not sure who he is, but what we do know is he's called the Stig. But that is your starting grid here for this race, and another quick thank you, of course, to Simrigs for sponsoring Season 11 of the OOR Sprint Series. Well, I've already told you about them plenty of times, but if you're looking to upgrade your sim racing equipment and you happen to live in Australia, the Melbourne-based company has got you covered. Wheels, pedals, stands, probably have some gloves and some socks and probably some hoodies as well if you search hard enough, somewhere around in that warehouse. They've got you covered. If you're our Patreon member, of course you get 5% off your purchase. Sim racing equipment ain't cheap at all, so use those discounts where you can. If my mom's taught me anything, it's exactly that. And if you're like me and you live outside of the Australian continent or out of New Zealand as well, send them an email. They'll get you covered, and from there, well, talk business with them, and I'm sure they'll be more than happy to send you some gear. But we head back out on track right now. The safety car pulling away. We've got an hour and a half ahead of them. It is going to be quite interesting at this race. Now, there are no mandatory pit stops. So, the pit strategy no longer revolves around making sure you get fresh rubber on that car at a certain time. It's going to be just about sending it and hoping for the best, sort of like the 9 hours of Kyalami we have coming up. No mandatory stops there. It's all up to the drivers and the teams to figure out what the best strategy is. And here in the Sprint Series, everybody is the driver, everybody is the strategist, the mechanic, everybody is everybody of the team. And they're going to be looking to, well, try and make the best of it over the next hour and a half. It is going to be quite hectic, I think. In the EU race, we did have some rain, but it looks like for right now, at least for the next 30 minutes, it is going to be a bright, sunshiny day here at Silverstone. And I'm sure these drivers are more than happy to take care of that. Now, in the EU race we had earlier today at Monza, we had a bout of rain, and it dried up completely by the end. Drivers having to nurse their wet tires, those that stayed on wets, that is, had to figure out what they were going to do exactly towards race end. We didn't have any big incidents. We had some spins here and there and a couple of unfortunate contacts as well. But yeah, the Simrigs safety car, I think, is starting to pull away. Yes, it is. And drivers are going to be lining up here 2 by 2. Now, they have to be careful not to leave too much of a gap to the drivers ahead. That will cop them a penalty. And for a lot of these drivers, that is not what you want. XLR, yeah, you are right. Silverstone quite hard on the tires. So I don't know how many pit stops we're going to be seeing. We could see a few. More than normal. But for right now, we are getting around the final corner here. For an hour and a half of racing, things are going to get quite chaotic quite quickly. It's Lamelin on pole with Golzar joining him, and then Lovering, Pierce, Harder, Brooke, Fernandez, Flomger, Clifford, Sanchez, your top 10. Carpenter, Thompson, Skeptura, Briscoe, Medina, Dag, Lutkis, Frizza, Brown, Wilson, the next 10, everyone else following suit. But we trundle on up to the start-finish line, under the banner, under the lights we go. And I think, ladies and gentlemen, it's green, green, green. I think Lamelin might have been a little bit too eager on the jump as he is bolted away, but I'm not quite certain if that was a legal bolt at all. It's going to be door-to-door here. Loverink and Pierce starting to exchange blows. Oh, almost getting spun out there from Pierce as we head down towards Maggots and Beckett's, and Loverink does have to step out of this one. We did see Brooke in the background almost getting taken out, but thankfully kept it together, leading the fellow BMW of Fernandez. Everybody look at this, neat and tight and cleanly racing. We've got some side-by-side in the background there. I believe that is the Bentley of Briscoe, or not Briscoe, sorry, Rasco. No, it isn't Rasco. In the background, I appear to have mixed up my Bentleys. Mahoney, quite possibly. Door-to-door there with the McLaren in the background, and continues on with Frizza doing battle with one of the other drivers. But it's been a very, very clean getaway right now. Lamelin, I think that start might be under investigation. That looked like it was a little too quick for the stewards' liking. Golzar having to just sort of rock and roll with it at the moment, but it's been an incredible start from everybody. Now, this is a part of the track where things could be getting a little bit messy. This fast sweeping left-right-hander combination has caught out a few drivers in the past. We ride on board here. Colin Johnson has Ronan Mendina in front of him, looks for a move down the inside. Mendina just throwing it at Dag, but he is going to be outside for the next corner. Could he look for a bit of a switchback? Almost goes into the back there, and there's the 727 of Lutkis just taking advantage of this, and he's not only going to pick up Johnson, he's going to be picking up Medina as well as we head on to this back straight, and he is going to be eyeing up Brown there for a move. We stay here with Johnson, though, giving us a great little overview. On the inside is Lutkis, almost getting sideswiped there from Medina, who does have to back out. Colin Johnson notices an opening, but decides better of it, and just behind him it is Mahoney looking for a piece of the position 20, and behind him as well is going to be Hasser and Rasco vying for position. So already we're seeing some moves getting thrown in there. Look at track map really quickly. Of course, you can see, oh, we actually have Wilson way off in the background. Not quite certain what that was. Maybe spinning off somewhere. We won't know if that was driver error or perhaps maybe inflicted by somebody else until later on. But we continue on, and we're going to be seeing some gaps starting to form. But we'll also be seeing a lot of these packs starting to form as well. We're going to hop on up here. Braden Thompson in the 144 BMW does have Clifford and Sanchez ahead of him. And then Briscoe breathing down the back of his neck, trying to find this P11 and maybe sneak in to the top 10 here as the race goes on. You can see the huge amount of... just a huge line of cars. I may throw on the map occasionally there, Niall. For me, it's a little too distracting in commentary. Oh, hold on. We've got someone off in the background. I believe that's Brown going a little bit wide. It is. Not quite certain what that's all about. We're going to roll this one back very, very quickly. So we head on through. Oh, it looks like just a little bit of understeer. Caught out the 1-2 Audi. And was able, thankfully, to keep things under control. But look at how many positions way down in P23 at the moment. Not what he wants. But Spencer Brown, of course, plenty of time to recover. Ronan Medina starting to come under attack here from Colin Johnson, who is a little too close for comfort. The chompers there of that Porsche really maybe possibly getting to Medina, or maybe it's just me. Who knows? ACC is a perfectly coded game, as we all know. But Medina holding on just for now. Jonathan Clifford, oh, that looked a little bit crazy. Did he go around the outside? I would love to see it. Oh, Sanchez gets sideswiped there from Briscoe into the wall. We're going to see Clifford here. So it looks like he was already ahead, actually, before the corner. Oh, he gets a little bit loose, and Sanchez goes into the back of him. Now, Briscoe goes just into the side. You see the car wiggle there, and you see Sanchez going into the wall and spinning out. Not going to be too pleased there for the Mexican driver. Definitely already on the comms there, calling that one out. The stewards are going to be taking a look at that, and we should be seeing some penalties getting sorted out. Brian Rasco here with Johnson behind him. It looks like he may have gotten the better of the 176 earlier on, as he is beginning to run with Mahoney, try and use those Boatleys to pull ahead. Maybe they're going to use some of that boost there. Hydro Thunder, perhaps, anybody? If anybody remembers that game, I remember playing that way too much. And yes, it was worth it. Especially at the bowling alley. We look here. Oh, we've got something going on up here with these BMWs and the Aston Martin. I believe that was Pierce getting involved. And Flomger as well into the mix. Oh, and just up ahead, you can see Hayden Harder going door-to-door there with Loverink. And even door-to-door between the two BMWs. It is going to be Harder that pulls ahead, and I believe that's Briscoe. Brooke there, just ahead of Fernandez, but I don't think Fernandez is going to be giving that one up just quite yet. Really running it out wide a little bit onto the gravel. And with the slipstream, he is going to pull in closer, but I don't know if he's going to be brave enough into cops. No, he's not. The two pseudo teammates deciding that that corner is not the place to overtake. And it seems like they both kind of messed up a little bit, so that's going to give Flomger a chance to catch up. So we head on through. Actually, Flomger... Oh, no, sorry. Oh, who's that? That is... Oh, boy, that is Loverink getting all sorts of bent out of shape there through Maggots and Beckett's. Flomger trying to force it down the inside. There's no way he gets that to work. Onto the grass. and gets the move done and just slots right in front of Fernandez. Beautiful stuff. He's now hunting down Brook. Lovering is defensive. Same with Flomger, but Flomger looks for a move down the inside there onto Brook. Is not going to work out and has to just settle back in behind, but he is getting very ambitious. He's going to throw it down the inside. Is it enough for the overtake? No, it is still not. He's getting dangerously close here to Brook lap, or sorry, not lap after lap, but corner after corner. He's not giving it up. You can see the leaders pulling away. Lamelin and Golzar are just gone. Harder as well, starting to get his feet moving. But this huge, I wouldn't even call it a little pack. It's a massive pack from Lovering. I'd say down to maybe Clifford or Thompson. All these battles in there in the background. It's Pierce going around the outside there of Fernandez. Does get the job done. That opens up the door for Clifford to possibly take advantage of that. Carpenter almost into the back of Thompson as we head on through. Or no, sorry, Briscoe. And a very good move there from Pierce and Clifford to get themselves moved on up the field there. We do have Sanchez into the pit, so this is probably for that collision earlier on and the damage sustained from it by going head first into that wall. So this race still far from over. Now the thing with these longer mini endurance race events is that you have to sort of, you know, figure, do you want to be underfueled and try to get as much time out of the car as you can, or do you fill it up to max and just, you know, maybe go for tires? Most drivers, I'm fairly certain, will be going for a max fuel load. Some of them, of course, I know are going to be using a little bit less, just trying to eke out a couple of hundredths or so, as weight is or car performance is affected by the fuel load. But in this mini endurance, it's going to kind of just depend. And even when drivers go into the pits, I think is going to be a big thing for these guys to figure out. We'll see how battles develop, who is going to be opting for an undercut, who is maybe going to try to extend it and just go for the overcut. But things really starting to settle down here on track as Clifford leading ahead of Fernandez and Thompson, 8, 9, and 10. Harder right there. About to exit screen with Loverink as well, and then a bit of a gap down to Brook before we get to this big old pack of drivers. Lamelin is quite a ways up the road. Still trying to figure out if he may have jumped the start a little bit. Golzar as close as he can be, so we'll take a look. You can see, yeah, there's Lamelin just up the road. So close, but so far. And just behind him is Sanchez, fresh out of the pits, and you can see all the cars that Sanchez is going to have to let through. That is definitely going to hurt later on in the race. We hop back with Brian Rasco. He's got Colin Johnson behind him. Has been unable to shake the Porsche these last several laps. The last lap for Rasco, a 2-minute 36 for Johnson, a 2-minute 33, so only 300ths. But it is going to be enough to bring Colin Johnson a bit closer. He did, I think for a second, look for a move down the inside. Decided better of it. Rasco losing the tail end of the Bentley. That seems like something you shouldn't be able to do. Colin Johnson going to just slip on by, and he is going to be eyeing up Mahoney as they start their 5th lap here. Clifford's still having to deal with Fernandez, who has not given up the hunt at all. And just behind him is Thompson and Carpenter trying to do what they can. Clifford getting this corner all sorts of incorrect. Runs it a bit wide over onto the grass. Thankfully, Fernandez carrying the speed and having the intuition to send it around the outside, and he does get the move done. Oh, and it looked like a second there. Maybe Thompson was going to try something, but decided better of it. Carpenter could have always going to maybe try to force Thompson to have a worse line there, as Thompson did go defensive, but managed to slot back in quite well. And doesn't get the best exit here, so he is going to be losing some time. These drivers, man, this is... what? This is from Scaptura all the way up to, I believe, Brook. So we're looking at P4 to P15. Very close to each other, relatively speaking. Right on board here, Keith Briscoe. A 501 BMW. Lamelin's picked up 5 seconds. Oh no, it's actually 10 seconds. He did jump the start. It is confirmed. I thought his launch was a little too good for the system. And oh no, is that Gulzar picking? It is. So Gulzar and Lamelin have both picked up penalties for jumping the start and the 131 of Pierce. I don't think we've ever had... Oh boy, we've got Pierce off. Uh-oh. Thomas Pierce has left the server. But I was about to say, I don't think we've ever had anybody, for as long as I can remember, in the OR, in North America and Europe, I don't think we have ever had any driver ever get a false start. I think this might be the very, very first time. It's a first for everything, and for Thomas Pierce, well, that, I think, is going to be his night. And that is quite unfortunate for him. So he'll be getting ready for the Nürburgring. Next time we're out here, we hop back up. Braden Thompson can't seem to reel Clifford in, but is able to keep Carpenter behind him. Has not really been letting that gap close up at all. His last lap, a 59.89, and Carpenter's a 59.98. So very close between these two. And Clifford's lap, a 2-minute 1.8. So 3/10 slower than Thompson, but right now it's got a pretty solid gap. Now that was because of the little bit of lawn mowing he did earlier. But was able to recover quite well off of that. But yeah, Lamelin and Gulzar with those 10-second penalties for the false start. And I believe we will be seeing a penalty coming in, possibly, I think, for Fernandez or Briscoe. For that touch on Sanchez, which is never good. Obviously, it'll get added on and it'll be dealt with during the next pit stop. And with these non-mandatory stops, we will probably be seeing a lot of drivers going very long on their stints before heading in. Try to minimize the amount of time they spend in the pit lane and make up what they can. Timothy Flonger up into P4 at the moment, with Loverink behind. And I believe that is Brooke just ahead. Yeah, it is. The game kind of struggling right now to figure out what the positions of everybody is following the early exit there from Thomas Pierce. But it looks like it's settled down. So Brooke into P4, Loverink in P6, Flonger in 5, and behind them is Fernandez in P7. And then just behind Fernandez, you can see there it is, that little 3-pack of Clifford, Thompson, and Carpenter. The battle for P8 there has died down, but of course still simmering. So we see a cone just get punted. I mean, the World Cup is on, and I know England's football team is pretty good, but not good enough to beat us. We'll take the tie. It is absolutely 100% worth it. Oh goodness, I'm sure Brooke might be reeling from that. Same with I know there was someone else we had. I don't know, it might just be Tim Brooke from the land of tea. But Loverink starting to lose time to Flomger. Probably did not get the best corner, and that'll pull Fernandez in a little bit closer. I don't think really too close for a move. No, the gap's still pretty healthy, although later on the brakes goes Fernandez, catches right up. Loverink, I think, had to get off the brakes there for a second to avoid getting rear-ended, but maintains this P6 for the time being, really just trying to use as much track as he can. And despite that little bit of gravel, I thought for a second he was going to be safe, but the slipstream given over to Fernandez. Could we see a move down to Copse? No, we don't. Going too wide for there. And these cars almost never works out, and I'm sure Verstappen and Hamilton would have something to say about that as well. We take a step back, quite a ways back actually, to Boboletskos and Dave Hasser. I think I saw a headlight flash there for a second. I'm not quite certain what that's all about. Maybe a little bit of push to pass out of Hasser that Boboletskos is not okay with. Wicks as well, just waiting in the background. Knows that if these two fight long enough, he could take advantage of that, and Brown having to hold off Raworth. Surprised to see Brown this far down. Ooh, almost got that corner, I think, a little bit incorrectly. But actually able to turn that into something that's quite useful for him. But yeah, seeing Brown down here, P22 for the pro driver. That is quite heartbreaking. But we continue on, and now it's, you see Sanchez starting to get most of this pack behind him, starting to catch up, and I think it's going to be a lot of just side lane cruising. Some coasting for the number 21 McLaren for a while, because there's a lot of cars that got to get past him, and it's going to be rough. But maybe this little change of plans has given our friend just south of the border a chance to maybe have a very good finish towards the end of the race. Answer the question from an aisle. Yeah, the penalties for Lamelin and Gulzar were for jumping the start, and then Pierce also had a 10-second penalty for jumping the start, but didn't disconnect from the server. I don't know if that was user-induced or internet-induced. Either way, he is out of the server, unfortunately, and I don't know if we'll be seeing him again this evening. And ACC manager, how dare you say those two words, those 6 letters. We did have rain last week for EU here at Silverstone, and that was quite a race. A lot of surprises as things developed and some very close finishes. But for North America, it is bone dry out there. No wind, just sun, some clouds, and optimum track. 21 ambient, 28 on track. These drivers, it's exactly what they want. And for the next half hour, at the very least, whoa, we got Loveridge going very wide there. For the next half hour, it is going to be clear skies. I'm surprised. I don't really think... Oh my god, Sanchez. The biggest move over I've ever seen. Decides that McLaren's time in racing is over. It is time to make lawnmowers, following in the footsteps of Mercedes. Right now, Darren Wick starting to feel some pressure here from Brown as these two go door to door. And they just, I think, a little bit of a touch there. Got things sorted out. Brown on the inside line. Could this be the overtake? And it looks like Wicks is not going to give this one up. And as I say that, he does. Just has to sort of stand on the brakes a little bit. And that's actually going to give Raworth a chance to catch up as we head to the F1 start-finish straight. Raworth could have had that there, but just a little too late to the party, and that'll give Darren Wicks a chance to hold on. But Wicks is getting a little out of shape, gets onto the grass, onto the sausage curbs, keeps it together though. A little bit of drifting, and Raworth messes up too. Shunting in sympathy. And Darren Wicks, for worst case scenario, has the best case scenario, as he's able to hold on to P22 after that blunder. Raworth kicking himself. He knew he had that position in the bag, but probably just got a little bit nervous. Skylar Loveridge here, P6, still trying to chase down Flomger and Brooke Fernandez as well in the same pursuit. For Brooke, it was a 58.63. For Flomger, a 59.3. For Loveridge, a 59.36. Fernandez, a 59.02. So these drivers could be swapping quite a few positions as this race carries on. Monza was enjoyable as well. OR was great. ACC manager apparently speaks nothing but facts, and we love to see that. Dave Hasser with Bubba Let's Go's right now with a very solid exit. Bubba Let's Go's pulling to the inside here. Could get this done. He is just going to sit there on the inside of the corner, not give Hasser a chance to really make any sort of moves, and will easily pick up P19, and now has his sights set on Mahoney. A big old Bentley. Does have the very fearsome looking Mercedes just behind. But for right now, Mahoney can, or sorry, not Mahoney. Rasco surprised that I know, kind of just out of the scene, but could be seeing some fighting going on for the 135. That's very good news. But for Mahoney, well, it's heart rate increasing, same with blood pressure, because he has got someone chasing him down, and that gap is just non-existent at this moment. This Babaletsko's getting a lot of these corners just so much better. And with that slipstream, I'm sure the slipstream from the Bentley is more of a slip tunnel. With just how big that thing is able to just punch, you know, a nice big crater into the earth, or into the atmosphere. But Babaletsko's not really doing too well. He saw a little bit of oversteer, able to correct it. Back out onto the charge. But 18, 19, 20, Mahoney, Babaletskos, and Hasser will definitely be keeping an eye on this. Loverink has lost quite a bit of time to Flomger, but who's also been losing time to Fernandez. Gonna force the long way around the outside there from the BMW. Kind of just cuts across. Fernandez having to stand on the brakes, and Loverink running it quite a ways out wide. Could be a lasting advantage. See what the stewards have to say about that one. But these two are really starting to get a little bit tango-y with each other. Takes two to tango, and that is certainly what they are doing. Carpenter as well, feeling a bit of heat coming off of Skaptura. Last lap for Carpenter was a 59.0. For Skaptura was a 2:05, so I'm wondering what happened there. These guys, similar cars and probably very similar setups. But who knows what they're rocking with. And just up ahead is Frizza. Skaptura, big lunge down the inside, is just going to have to back out of that one last second. That was looking almost like a Forza lobby move. Carpenter getting to relax. There was definitely some tense muscles there for him. Eric Mahoney is starting to get a little bit nervous right now. Babaletskos on the prowl, and despite the earlier mistake from the Mercedes, is able to catch right back up with the slipstream, throws it down the inside. Mahoney sees it, tries to give just enough room. Is he going to maintain the inside line, though, as we head around the final corner? He will, but the question is, what is the exit going to look like? Oh, he covers it off perfectly, actually. Babaletskos has to get on the brakes a little bit and actually goes onto the gravel. So for Mahoney, incredible defensive driving there to hold on to this 18th position. But he is not even close to being out of the woods. This may be the never-ending forest for him. A driver like Babaletskos is definitely not someone you want in your rearview mirror. Terrifying guy, Timothy Flomger. Looks like he's lost some time there to Loverink off of maybe an off-track. And he does go into the side there of Fernandez. He's drifting around the corner. Now is not the time to be doing the Forza Horizon 5 drift events. Now is the time to sim race at Silverstone. And he does hold on to P6. Loverink already starting to get out of this battle. And Fernandez really pushing it. He does go onto the grass, but is able to keep that BMW under control. But unfortunately does lose that time that he gained on up. But it is Loverink that has benefited the most from this, as before he was worried about Fernandez trying to overtake him, but with Flomger's error, it's opened up quite a gap. So not only does Flomger have to catch back up to Loverink, he also has to worry about Fernandez looking for something, and he knows that any little opening that he makes, Fernandez will 110% go for. But that gap has opened up a fair bit. And this little pack's starting to form. It's Dag, Frizza, Carpenter, and Skaptura. The battle for P11 here. Starting to brew a little bit more with each passing lap. Dave Hasser as well for Kraft Dinner Racing. Now has Spencer Brown in his rearview mirror. This could be P20 being exchanged here rather quickly. Although the distance between them is greater when you look out the back than when you look at from one of the trackside cams. Lehman, though, still in the lead ahead of Golzar and Harder on top. The top 3 podium places. Hasser really trying to find some time. Same with Carpenter. I think for a moment he might have had a little bit of a moment because Frizza's caught quite a ways up now as Frizza looks to the inside but just has to back out. Tried to sight Carpenter out of the corner, but nerves of steel from this man is going to keep him ahead, but the exit looking a little bit messy. And Scaptura behind as well, just lurking, waiting, hoping to pick up 2 positions. Frizza, you've left your blinkers on. You might want to turn that off. You never know. It could drain the battery. You could stop dead on track. But of course, that's a little ridiculous. Thomas Dagg there just up ahead. He sees this battle forming and knows that he can try to get something done. It looks like Scaptura there for a second tried a little bit of a switcheroo move. Didn't quite work. At least Frizza telling us which direction the next corner goes. Very intuitive there from the Ferrari. We're going to jump back up here. Jonathan Clifford, a driver we really haven't seen for a good bit for Alpha Sim Sport right now. In P8 behind him is Braden Thompson, trying to pick up some positions. Now, Braden Thompson, if memory serves, whether it was just last season or into this season, was an amateur class rated driver, but has been bumped up to Pro-Am. And that has definitely been proving himself as he runs inside the top 10 right now. With Briscoe behind him as well, a Pro-Am. And of course, Clifford, a fellow class driver. We have to look back down here with Dave Hasser and Spencer Brown. This battle, it is on the back burner right now. Ooh, a little bit loose there. 9-2-1. We'll keep it going through Maggots and Beckers. This is a part of the circuit where you can really just guarantee you're not going to lose any sort of time. It's very difficult to overtake into these fast sweeping corners. So this is sort of a safe haven for drivers, at least for the time that they're in there. Before they get onto this nice long straight, you can really give a good toe to the driver behind. It's not going to matter, and right now Chris Frizza does have Matteo Scaptura down the inside. They are almost going to come together here as we head towards the second or third sector, and Frizza is just going to back out there, let Scaptura through, but maybe this is part of El Plan. I know he's not in an Alpine, but Ferrari is definitely a quick car, and I'm fairly certain Alonso was in it in a couple seasons, but right now Frizza looking for a little bit of a switcheroo. Is not going to work out too well. And Scaptura does find that P13 after lap and lap and lap of just slowly chipping away at that lead. Was able to get it done. Timothy Flomger has been struggling to catch Lovering. Look at the gap there as they cross the line. It is 3.5 seconds. Fernandez 3/10 behind Flomger. It seems like this defending has been exactly what Lovering has wanted, as these two drivers are just trying to not only defend but attack each other. As we head onto the straight here, really using as much road as Fernandez dares, and it might have been a little too much as he is going to lose some time, so Flomger with some breathing room. The question is, for how long will that remain? Last lap for Flomger, a 59.66. For Fernandez, a 59.63. Only 300th separate their last laps from each other. Their fastest laps, it's Fernandez with a 58.60 or 58.86, and then a 58.69 for Flomger. But obviously, we're more concerned about the last laps for these drivers. That's a true metric of how things go, and it looks like Lovering's starting to chase down Brooke a little bit. It's a little over a second between them for right now, but that will definitely be coming down. Last lap for Brooke was a 55.22. For Lovering, it's a 58.66. That is a huge difference, 0.6 of a second. But we are a little under 0.6. Trying to figure out math right now. But no, it's a really, really good lap improvement there from Loverink. Just slowly reeling in Brook in these laps. That's sort of the thing with motorsport. It's not about how quickly. It's sometimes you got to play the long game. You got to be patient. You just got to slowly but surely make things lean in your favor. And for the driver ahead, it's a really big psychological effect even, because what you have to remember is that you have that car in your rear view, and it seems like every time you go over that timing line, it's just a little bit closer each time, and you start thinking, man, am I doing something wrong? Am I struggling? Am I washed up? And that can force an error. But we'll see how things pan out. Flomger and Fernandez still being in each other's hair. Dave Hasser and Sam Raworth. So this is starting to form right now. 21, 22, and 23 as Spencer Brown has picked it up. And actually, no, it is going to be Hasser and Raworth into the pit lane for the first time this race. They got to make sure they don't get caught out. Ooh, Raworth very, very close. So early pit stops there for the cars in the back of the field. We are going to be seeing most of these drivers starting to get their pit stops done at some point during the race. But we'll see how things end up following the last set of pit stops. Tim Brook is really just not doing the best of getting Loverink off his tail. Still waiting for, or no, actually the last lap for Brook was a 59.32, for Loverink a 58.67. This is just chunks of time getting taken out right now. So Brook, are we going to be seeing an early pit stop from Brook and or Loverink? No, they're both going to pass up the pit lane. Dave Hasser picking up 30-second stop go. Maybe a little bit too hot into the pit lane. Or maybe something I've done where you try to turn the camera to look at the guy you're trying to pass and you accidentally turn off your limiter. Not that I've ever done that. I definitely don't have a button dedicated to my pit limiter. And definitely didn't do something stupid one time. I don't know. Thomas Dag, though. Austin Carpenter behind him. 11 and 12 right now. For Dag, a last lap of a 2:01.07. For Carpenter's a 2:01.09. 200th between them is the gap from that last lap, but these two have been sort of yo-yoing each other over the course of this race. It hasn't really been one way or the other. Timothy Flomger, man, he is just struggling to get Fernandez off of him. I think for a second Fernandez might have had a look there, but just had to think better of it. Seems like no matter what the Mercedes does, he's just not able to shake the Beamer. As the pain here continues. As we see Thomas Dag and Austin Carpenter as well. Scaptura's in the back. He has not really had the best run, although as I said that, I look at the last laps. He is 4/10 quicker than both of these drivers on screen. So we could be seeing Carpenter getting swallowed up by Scaptura later on in the race. Jonathan Clifford as well. Try as he might, can't get away from Thompson. Thompson doing a very good job of keeping that BMW in check and keeping himself moving on forward. The last lap for Clifford was a 59.63 and Thompson a 59.84. So despite that, he has been doing a very good job of keeping up. So that stop-go 30 for Hasser has been exchanged to 10 seconds. Actually, that might have been for track limits, not pit limiter. So I think I've gotten my facts wrong. Thomas Dag still. Carpenter's actually done a very good job of catching up. McLaren very good around here. A lot of downforce, a lot of acceleration, and a very good top end. Really just sets it above the rest, especially the BMW. Thankfully, this is not the release BMW. I'm sure we're all very familiar with how this thing was welcomed into the community. You would be lucky to find a lobby that wasn't about 80%. He's driving an Audi. I know what I'm talking about. Oh, goodness. Whatever. They're both German manufacturers. We take those. Well, actually, you know what? Here we go. Braden Thompson. He's in a BMW. So we all remember release date BMW. How broken it was. How overpowered it was. How everybody was driving it. Except me. I stuck with my guns. Stuck with my... What was I driving at the time? I think I was still driving the Aston at that point. One car I don't see on the grid tonight is the Honda, unfortunately. We had a couple of Hondas in the EU race, both at Silverstone and, of course, at Monza. But not in North America. The Japanese manufacturer not getting really any screen time here. To double check, I'm fairly certain we have some Honda drivers. Yeah, Kenneth Portis and Jansen are the only two Honda drivers. Portis not marking attendance. He's been dealing with the VRS Pro Series, actually. That's been taking up a lot of his time. Jansen not marking attendance. He will be out, of course, as he's not on track. But yeah, Clifford running it quite a ways wide. Braden Thompson very conservative there into the first corner. Down into cups. Maggots and Beckett's up next for these two drivers. So we're going to see what Braden Thompson's doing. So he can't really take the line he wants because he does have Clifford, and for the Lamborghini, it has to be sent, much like every car, it has to be sent through these corners a bit differently. I'm sure we're all familiar with maybe getting rear-ended accidentally because your brake point is a little further back than the car behind and they don't expect it, and well, from there, unfortunately, it's a problem. Speaking of problems, Mahoney has got all sorts of problems on his plate as Bobaletscos, I think, tried to go for a move there into Maggots and Beckett's. That would have been absolute heroics, but decides better of it. There's still 51 minutes to go here in the race. This mini endurance series, of course, always a bit of a challenge for everybody, not only on track, but in the booth for the stewards, for everybody. But we come out, we do it because, gosh darn it, we are going to do it. It's Darren Wicks into the pit lane for his first stop. That front end a little bit chipped up. Hopefully nothing too serious, of course. Jonathan Clifford still with Braden Thompson in pursuit. Thomas Dagg and Austin Carpenter. Mahoney and Bobaletscos. All of those gaps at about half a second. Things really settling down here. So I don't think we're going to be seeing too many sparks until all these pit stops come through, because drivers have gotten into the rhythm. The race has settled in nicely. And 50 minutes to go, and for the next 30 at the very least, it's going to be clear, sunny skies over here in England. I didn't know if this weather was possible over there. I only know it is cold and wet and sad. But we'll see. We won't be getting an update until... Well, actually, we won't have another update until the 40-minute mark. And then from there, we'll see what happens, but what the radar indicates, absolutely no precipitation. We carry on. Yeah, a lot of half-second gaps. The only gap that's lower than half a second is this one right here between Mahoney and Bobaletscos. This is where the 316 Mercedes tried it earlier, but decided better of it. Now a slightly different line, actually, than what he did last time, trying to get some more momentum carried through these corners. And it hasn't worked out too well. Has not really gotten the launch he wanted into the pits. Andrew Wilson down in P21, so we'll see where he pops out after everything is said and done. This might be the place that we stay for a little bit of time, because gaps aren't really going down for the moment. Wow, let's go. Ooh, a little bit think late on the brakes, might have missed his brake point a little bit. Tried to scare Mahoney off his line. Seems he's only looked in a mirror and done it to himself. So the Bentley ahead of Mercedes here at Silverstone. But up ahead, it is still Lamelin on top. 3.287 seconds is the gap. Fastest lap of this race, a 58.032. The only driver close to that is Loverink with a 1:58.225. So only less than, well, we'll round it. We'll say 0.2 is the gap. Thomas Dagg is into the pits. But yeah, Lamelin and Gulzar are going to have to serve that 10-second penalty at their pit stop following their false start at this race. And besides Dave Hasser picking up 10 seconds, there are really no other penalties to speak of. And I've probably just cursed somebody. So to whoever that may be, my apologies. But we ride on board here with Tim Brook. Ooh, he's got a love rank very late on the brakes. Maybe missing that brake point a little bit. Almost going into the back here of the hometown hero. Tim Brook getting that away. Timothy Flomger does have Fernandez still behind him. Flomger's last lap, a 58.02. Fernandez a 59.802, excuse me, a 59.51 there for Fernandez. Now this is the thing that we've noticed with these mini endurance series when we do them. And I know that we do our regular sprint in an hour, but when you add that extra 30 minutes on, you see a lot of slower, I don't want to say racing, but drivers aren't as quick to make these moves happen because they have that extra half an hour to play with. So normally we'd be seeing moves already starting to get put through. But for a lot of these drivers, it's just about playing the long game. Because you know that the driver ahead of you could go for an earlier pit stop and try to pull out a gap and then overtake you. And from there, well, now you got to do it all again. Tim Brook now in the pit lane. But yeah, and pit stops are also another thing that drivers really have to play around. Some drivers will be thinking, you know, maybe I do an extra pit stop than everyone else just so I have fresher rubber, I can run the car with less fuel. But the downside of that is, well, having to do an extra pit stop. It's never easy. It's never fun, and you end up losing more time. But then you have drivers who might stay out a little too long, and on a circuit like Silverstone that really chews up tires, it's a gamble for some, I believe, to stay out. And Thompson and Frizza and Lutkis taking that note, getting into the pit lane for a fresh set of tires. And now you're right, there are a lot of Alpha Sim Sport drivers. I think we have, I want to say 3 or 4 drivers on this grid that have that livery. True Alpha Sim Racers, of course. And Mahoney into the pits as well. So we'll see how everybody sort of handles it. And I want to see if Lamelin's going to go in this lap. He's had 22 laps on those tires as we just get under halfway. So perhaps he's going to do a half and half deal. Now, one thing to note is when you're in the pit box, your fuel is getting loaded in at the exact same time as your tires are getting swapped out. So you don't lose any time off of that. Gulzar as well staying out. But then once the that 30 seconds is all done, then you have that extra penalty time to serve. And you just get to sit there and wait, and then they let you go. Hayden Harder into the pits, Skylar Loverink as well. Flomger deciding that now is a good time to get some more tires on. There's Dave Hasser in front of Fernandez right now. Jonathan Clifford passing up the pit lane. Keith Briscoe, now's the time for his pit crew to get some action here. Got to make sure you don't overcook it into the pit lane. A lot of these drivers really just standing on the brakes as they go in to avoid picking up a speeding penalty. Colin Johnson in as well. Just in the background there. I think he might have sensed it in a little too hard. Almost goes into the wall. So yeah, I think around here, 22, 23, 24 laps, we should be seeing a lot of these pit stops getting served. Now for some of these drivers, they've been chasing somebody down for a while. And at this point, we're going to have a little bit of blending of a lot of these drivers, and I think that's where a lot of the fun's going to begin, is when we have several drivers who might be in spots they're not used to, with drivers behind them that aren't used to being in those positions. And that's when things get quite hectic, harder picking up a drive-through penalty. I'm not certain what that's for. I might say speeding, but it could also be track limits. And now with your pit speeding penalties in your split, it's interesting to see what happens. Well, we've had a couple, I think, already with Harder and Hasser. But, yeah. Oh, Lamelin and Gulls are into the pits. Okay, so not only are these guys going to have 30 seconds as the mandatory amount of time that these cars are in the pit lane for, but they are going to have to wait an extra 10 seconds to serve their penalty for that false start at the beginning of the race. Wilson Fernandez will inherit the lead, although it will be temporary. And there it is. Jonathan, oh! We're going to roll that one back. I want to see this. So Jonathan Clifford, oh my god. Jonathan Clifford, wow, that was a little too hot into the pit lane. I think he may have thought of it as a normal corner. Mateus Captura goes in. Oh, Clifford, that was you're just a gem, my friend. I mean, I don't think he's practiced his pit stops. Baba Let's goes in. We just saw him. Yeah, make sure we're practicing our pit stops. I think that's one thing that sort of gets overlooked. You know, we all hop into hot lap mode and we start running the car around and around. Maybe we go into practice mode to be like, oh, well, we're doing race conditions. We've got a yellow flag somewhere on track. That is Clifford, apparently, causing it. Don't know how, don't know why. He's already crashed and he's off the circuit. But then again, kudos. But yeah, anyways, drivers focus on, you know, that, the hot lap mode. They focus on practice. Maybe they find an open lobby with it, or maybe they just boot up a solo race with bots and go from there. But one thing I don't think a lot of drivers practice is pit entry. It's always important to do that, even if you don't do it until the day of the race and you're in practice before quali. It's always a good idea to just take a couple of laps and just practice going into the pit lane so you don't do, well, what, you know, our friend Clifford did, and make a bit of a fool of yourself. And I'm not seeing Clifford. I think we may have had an early retirement. Yeah, it looks like Clifford... Oh no, Clifford is still in the pit lane. Yeah, he is out, disqualified from the race. I'm not quite certain what that's all about. So we'll see if maybe there's a message he sends later on in the chat room. Some of these drivers do like to talk about what has happened. Baba Let's Go's here with Mahoney behind. It's usually the other way around that we see between these two, but Baba Let's Go is getting the better. May have reversed. I think he may have reversed, but he got to his pit lane, or he got sorted out in the pit lane. Yeah, but you can be disqualified for reversing in pit lane, but I don't know. I have no idea. I couldn't tell you. I'm sure he's having a talk with the stewards right now, trying to get that all sorted out. Let's Go has done a very good job, though, of opening up this gap to Mahoney. It says 0.6, but it's actually about a second right now between them. We'll see that update as they go over the next in-game timing line. But the sun continuing to shine here at Silverstone. And for the next 30 minutes, it's going to be that way. Do we see some last-minute precipitation? I think I've just spoken it into existence. Do I have any regrets? Probably not. I'm not the one that's racing. I'm just sitting here in my chair talking. Oh, let's go. It's getting a little bit upset. Oh, hold on. We've got something very interesting here. We've got Fernandez, Briscoe, and Brown around there. Or no, that may have been Thompson. Ooh, the left side of that Audi scratched up quite a fair bit. Wondering what that's all about. Brown going from P10 to P12. May have had a little bit of a run-in with somebody. And has to sort of settle the car number representing his spot on track right now. I think that may have happened off camera. Not too certain, but we'll maybe see if there's a penalty given out somewhere. It was Briscoe and Thompson, rather. Excuse me. Now we have something very interesting going on. So we have Harder. We have Gulzar and Lamelin all together. Gulzar and Lamelin definitely faster than Harder. Harder with 10 seconds. But here's the problem. Gulzar's gonna have to get around Harder, who is going to be fighting for position. Brown picking up a penalty. I'm very surprised at that. But Harder is holding on to P3. Carpenter, ooh, Lamelin there for a second. Thought about it. Does actually get a very good exit out of the corner. He's on that rear quarter panel. So we head down. It is going to be the touch, the double touch. Onto Gulzar, able to keep that Porsche moving in a productive direction and not spinning out. Lamelin having to back out of that one. So let's see if that penalty came through. So it did. So, oh, Brooke has picked up a 5-second penalty for collision on lap 16. Very shocking. I don't know if Brooke did, I don't know what he might have done to incur the wrath of the stewards, but whatever he's done, it has been sorted out. Babaletsko's really not having the easiest time getting Mahoney off of him. The Bentley is big, but you can certainly send her. Like any road, if it's a long enough straight, you can really start getting some speed there out of the engine. Both these drivers hooking it up well. Mahoney, very early shift there. He should have, I think, waited just a little bit longer to upshift. But he did it early. Had a little bit of some oversteer. Got it held together, but you can see just that one little mistake, and Babaletsko's is gone with it. Has absolutely no reason to stick around and wait for him. They're not on an afternoon hike, and Mahoney's got to tie his shoe. They're out on the racetrack. Mahoney thought about it around the outside, but Babaletsko's putting it pretty much dead center, not really giving the Bentley anywhere to work with. And Brown back into the pit lane, or Brown into the pits rather, so the 5 seconds going to get served here. So for him, that's a good thing, as that won't be added on towards the end. Hamza Gulzar, the gap is only a 10th. Lamelin is getting very solid runs out of these corners. He's going to get later on the brakes, try to fire it around the outside. Now he's got the inside line, is not close enough. Gulzar continues to hold on to P4. Lamelin, everything he can to try and catch up, but nothing has worked so far. And Harder using this to his advantage, starting to pull away a little bit, but with 10 seconds hanging over him, it's not going to matter unless these two really come together and lose a ton of time. No, Lamelin giving Gulzar the hurry up, a little bit of a bump there. Try to just offset him a little bit, use the inertia to push the car around, but Gulzar has that thing planted to the floor, and just beyond them is Tim Brook, lurking and waiting beyond the veil. See what he can do. Brown, a stop-go 30. So it looks like this pit lane catching some of these drivers out, which is very surprising. And Carpenter deciding that now is the time that he needs to take a little bit of a 30-second breather before he gets back out there. Gulzar and Lamelin, 3 and 4 for them. The scoring pylon will update eventually. But we're going to look back a little bit. Keith Briscoe has had Thompson behind him for quite some time. Last lap for Briscoe a 59.22, and then for Thompson a 58.89. It's 4/10 between them. But this is something I noticed with a lot of races, not only this season, but even last season here in NA and EU. It's just a yo-yo effect between these drivers. You have very solid laps. You're, a couple of tenths faster each lap, but you just can't get it all sorted out. You gain all that time, and then one thing happens, you lose it, and then you gain it and lose it, and gain it and lose it. Now, whether it's at the same point or not is different between drivers, but what stays the same is that you're never really able to get anything done, and that can be extremely frustrating for a lot of drivers. You feel like you should have gotten this move done ages ago or that move done, X number of laps ago, but it just doesn't happen. And you see the time ticking down, you may think the worst, and you start getting a little bit impatient, and at that point, well, sometimes you end up taking somebody out, or you end up taking yourself and somebody out. Lamelin, and as I say it, Lamelin gets a little impatient with himself, and after getting around Raworth, goes into the rear left of Gulzar. I'm sure that dive bomb is not, well, I shouldn't call it a dive bomb, but that move down the inside, Stewards will be looking very heavily into that. There was a discussion earlier on in the season about dives. In fact, we had the admins come in and discuss, like, hey, listen, we've noticed this a lot. We need to kind of curb it because it is having a bit of an effect on everybody. So Lamelin will be feeling the wrath of the stewards here. How quickly, though, is the question. They'll be looking at it from all angles, looking at inputs. That's one thing I think that a lot of people don't really take into account, is when you are looking at these incidents and looking at the replays, you can say just on its own, oh, well, he went into the side of him. Well, that's a clear-cut case, but, sometimes it's not quite so. You have to pull up the inputs. You have to see, the telemetry. Were they on the brakes? Were they, how much were they turning in? Were they accelerating? And even looking at their setups. Oh, they might have, a higher ABS, so, well, now they're not going to be braking as much per se, and that could have an effect. It's a very slight effect, but it is definitely going to cause a couple of changes as it kind of sorts itself out, or as it gets dissected by the stewarding team. Shout outs to them, of course, for all the work they do. It's quite a lot. Can never be understated or can never be said enough how much these men and women do for this organization to keep the show running. But Lamelin, I'm sure, will be getting a penalty in due time. As we get 2/3 through this race, it's harder in the lead from Lamelin, Brook, Gulzar, Lovering, Flomger, Fernandez, Briscoe, Thompson, and Carpenter, your top 10. And then from that, it's Rasko, Dag, Frizza, Johnson, Skeptura, Lutkis, Baba Letskos, Mahoney, Hasser, Wilson, the next 10 down, and then Brown, Wicks, and Raworth. We've had a couple of drivers back out. The safety car as well, going home into the garage. But we are at a point where things are definitely not as chaotic. That safety car does stick around for quite a while at the beginning, just because of how likely it is that a safety car is going to come out. But as the race develops and these drivers find their footing and find their line, that's where you see those gaps form. We see it all the time. Those battle packs starting to form as well. And barring some sort of circuit, maybe located in Belgium, that might have a bit of a blind turn, if you will, I think usually at that point issues kind of sort themselves out. And if there is someone off track, it's usually only one or two drivers, and they're already out of the way, and they can see who's where and just stay out of the way until those cars pass. But harder, I'm fairly certain, We have to pit again, and that would put Laneland back in the lead with Brook and Golzar. Now, the thing is, if we take a look at the track map, I want to see the gap here. So you can see Laneland's car, that triangle located just towards the bottom, the 178, does have, or sorry, it's Laneland in second. Harder is the one up ahead, and then 404 of Brook and Golzar. They are within that 10-second window. If Laneland were to get a 10-second penalty, that would push them up. Golzar could be walking away, or sorry, Laneland could be walking away P4. Lovrink in P5. Lovrink, of course, wanted to try to get as much out of the Ferrari as he can. They'll look back down here. Spencer Brown, 10 seconds. Added on for a collision earlier. He's got Darren Wicks just behind. This will actually be an indication. So the last lap, Spencer Brown was 2 seconds slower, and it's going to be a second and then some slower to Wicks. Last lap for Spencer, you can just see it at the bottom, a 2:03.5, and then for Wicks it was a 2:02.4. So a little over a second is the gap right now. But man, it's been we had a very chaotic start, and then it kind of simmered down. We had a couple battles. We've had a couple of unfortunate mishaps for these drivers, whether it be someone like Clifford just sending it into the pit lane. Clifford actually back out on track, so yeah, not quite certain what that's all about. He was disqualified earlier, but perhaps the head admin's having some mercy. But what isn't showing any mercy is Laneland right now, as he is doing a incredible job just getting harder. Lose some ground here. Last lap for Harder was a 58.5, for Laneland a 58.3. 2/10 is a gap that Harder does not want to see get diminished. And behind them is actually Tim Brook and Hamza Golzar. It's a lot closer for these two. 3/10 instead of the 6/10 that we're seeing from the front two. Harder still with 10 seconds hanging over him, and I know Laneland is waiting to see what is well, given to him following that touch on the Golzar. Maybe he gets a little bit lucky and the stewards have a little bit of mercy. But again, like I said earlier, we had that chat with drivers earlier on in the season about moves like that and how we were seeing them more frequently. We wanted a little bit cleaner racing. Not to say that the racing isn't clean, it absolutely is, but you know, dive bombs like that are always a bit of an issue to deal with. Welcome in, Riddle. Commentating live stewarding is pretty realistic. Yeah, we try to have a nice tight ship here at the OOR. Try to have the best that we can offer, and well, that's one thing a lot of people do compliment us on, and of course we're going to carry that. We want to keep that going. That's what we do. Community built up for I think 4 years now. It's been a wild ride. I've only been a part of it for almost 2, but I can tell you it has been one of the best things that I've ever done. I thoroughly enjoy it. We see Brown there just getting out of the way of Harder and Laneland, who are just going to slip on through. Harder still, though, in the lead of this race. 10 seconds, though. Laneland doesn't really have to do much of anything, although he is not going to let a 10-second penalty be his reason for winning. He wants to get this move done and dusted and take the lead the right way, but he is really struggling right now. Wow, runs it quite a ways out wide. His last lap was 8/10 faster than Harder's, but that has to be because of probably a few back markers. So maybe not a true showing of just the pace. Ooh, almost into the back there of Harder. But he is on the inside. Has to back out, unfortunately. Does not have the move done quite yet. And we sit with bated breath, waiting. Tim Brook not getting the best exit, and that's going to invite Golzar to send it down the inside as we head down this back straight here, door to door. It looks like Brook has actually gotten a bit of an advantage. Does Golzar throw it down the inside? No, he doesn't. He thinks better of it. Although he is going to have that tighter line, is able to pull back in. Does he look for a switcheroo? No, he doesn't, but he's later on the brakes. It's door to door here through the final corner. These two go once more before they go on to the next lap. Tim Brook defending like his life depends on it as we go into lap number 33. It's Harder, Lamelin, Brook, and Gulzar, your top four, and then Lovering sort of just in no man's land right now between himself and Flomger through Copse. Not the best line there for Gulzar. Fernandez still giving Flomger a lot of trouble. It doesn't seem like anything Flomger does can shake the BMW, but the plus side is that anything Fernandez does can't really get in front of Flomger. So it's two sides of the same coin, but it's a four-dimensional coin, depending on how you want to look at it. It's had its 5th birthday. Oh my god, Mullock is going to kill me for not knowing that information. If I'm not here tomorrow for the Kyalami 9 hour, it's been great knowing you. Flomger not getting the best line there out of Maggots and Beckett's, but thankfully is not going to lose too much time there to Fernandez. Great stuff. Tim Brooks still. Gulzar is behind him. So let's look at this last lap. So last lap for Brook of 59.6, 59.5 for Gulzar. It's only a 10th, but it's enough. And there you see Brown just sending it off in the background, and that is Skylar Loverink just behind. Not close enough for a move, but still close enough to maybe pick up some scraps. Is this... Oh, I thought for a moment it was going to be something. What's going on up here? Hayden Harder and Lamelin are doing battle, but we got to hop back. The gap is a lot closer down here. This is where we saw Gulzar try to go for a move and try to do a little bit of a drag race down here, but the Porsche not with the best top end compared to the BMW. And even in the slipstream, you can see that there's not much of an effect there. Gulzar looking down the inside. Brook going to give him more than enough space as he is just keeping that car stapled to the inside. Right on the apex, not really giving anybody a chance to get on by. Gulzar, ooh, a little bit of a... Thought for a moment he tried to go for a move there. A late game switchback. But it's not meant to be in the slipstream. He is just keeping pace right now through Copse. Does he get the exit he wants? No, he doesn't. Brook gets it just a little bit better. And up ahead, just past this back marker, we do see Harder and Lamelin, who have continued to keep each other honest. Harder's last lap, a 58.9, a 58.7 for Lamelin. Brook's last lap, a 2-minute 1.127 for Gulzar. It's a 2-minute 0.125. It's 200ths between them. But it doesn't matter. The move hasn't been done. Lamelin has picked up a 15-second time penalty for his collision with Gulzar on lap 29. I knew that penalty was coming, but it's always a case of how and when. And for Lamelin, that has got to be a punch in the gut, but one that is both expected and admittedly a bit deserved. It's an unfortunate thing. This could put him way down. Ooh, Gulzar, a lot of speed there. He's going to try to send it around the outside. Maybe a bit of a switchback. Nope, not going to work. So Harder and Lamelin, the battle they were having, the problems they were facing, nothing was working. It was also Flomger and Fernandez. Doesn't matter what you seem to do. When you do something wrong, your opponent does something right, and vice versa. And that is just what we're seeing pretty much across the board with all these battles brewing. Harder, Lamelin, Brook and Gulzar, Flomger and Fernandez, Briscoe and Thompson, another pairing that we've been just eyeing up every now and again. Briscoe still maintains that P8 ahead of Thompson. The two BMWs doing a very good job of running it clean. Carpenter there just in the background of that hot pink McLaren in P10 to round that out. Brian Rasco, a driver we haven't really looked at too much this race, does have Dag behind him. Two drivers very well known here in the Sprint Series, and also very good drivers overall. And just behind them is Frizza and Johnson, the battle for P13. So a lot of these are going to go down to the wire. I would not be surprised if we see some last lap lunges just under 19 minutes to go into the pits as Spencer Brown. That could be for fuel and tires, but it is going to be a 10-second time penalty added on. So that is going to be a bit of a kick in the pants for him. He has all this to deal with. And Tim Brook again with Golzar on the offensive, and just ahead of them is a back marker. I believe that's Darren Wicks just up the road. So this could potentially be a bit of an issue for both of these drivers. They have to navigate each other and someone who's getting blue flag. Golzar thought maybe try to move around the outside, but it's a little switcheroo, and he gets an amazing exit there. But maybe the double switcheroo, it is there. Is he alongside? He is alongside, just barely. Brook has to give him the room. Through left-hander they go, door to door. It's a very good line there from Golzar, and it's a drag race here. But again, the Porsche just not enough top end. And it's later on the brakes, though, for Golzar. He fires it down the inside. There's a touch there onto Brook. Gets the job done. Loverig now in the picture, starting to get a little bit hungry for this position. Golzar, the double switcheroo. And somehow, despite the Porsche's poor top end compared to the BMW, makes every single move stick and moves up into P3. But here's the thing. Golzar 8 seconds back from Harder. If it stays within that 10 seconds, Golzar is going to win this race off of penalties. Not off of being the fastest driver on the grid, but from just being within a certain time frame with a certain amount of points against somebody else. And that'll put Brook up into P possibly 3. So Loverig would barely miss out on a podium unless he can get this move done at some point and then start closing that gap up, playing the same game as Golzar. Actually, no. Loverig and Brook combined a second, so they'd only be 9.5 seconds back, which is barely within the full. I don't know how this is going to play out. Because this is just right now. This is not the final permanent running time. This is... wow. So that very chaotic start settled down, a couple of bumps and bruises along the way, and I think it's going to be penalties that decide who wins this race. I can't think of the last time we had a race where your first driver to cross the line was eventually the one that doesn't get to take home the trophy. And now you may be right. They need to work together. Loverig and Brook have to be one and the same and not fight unless they can identify that one of them is faster. If it's Loverig, he's going to look to get around as soon as he can and just use Brook's goodwill to pull closer and closer. So let's see what the gap is. So Golzar crosses the line 8.1. Brook would be close enough to take P2. Loverig would only get P4. Because I don't think Harder has enough penalty time to get demoted any further. He's only half a second ahead of Lamelin. Lamelin, though, still with that fastest lap, that 58.03, by the way, has not been beaten by anybody. 9.009. That would put Golzar up into P1. Brook is P3, and Loverig still P4. This is just odd. Well, I mean, you gotta have a little bit of excitement, right? You gotta have a little bit of mathematics. Something I'm not too good on. Spencer Brown still in the pit lane for some reason. Not quite sure what that's all about. Very odd. Ooh, this little pack is forming here. Briscoe, Thompson, and Carpenter. Carpenter's done a very good job of reeling these two in. Perhaps they've been fighting a little bit too much, and that has given them what they need. Or has given Carpenter what he needs to pick things back up. Briscoe's last lap was a 59.837 for Thompson. It was a 59.852. And then Carpenter a 59.3. So half a second is just how much faster he is per lap. Now, again, as I stated earlier in the broadcast, the McLaren does quite well around here. And that is exactly what Carpenter is showing us, as he is on the charge, trying to find the time he can, using the slipstreams when he can as well. Anything this McLaren can get to go even faster, it absolutely will. It does not care what it's doing as long as it's within track limits and within the rules of the race. The McLaren is more than happy to gain a few miles per hour more when it needs it. But we head on here. Lap 38 for these guys. Briscoe, Thompson, Carpenter, 8, 9, and 10. Carpenter has not gotten the best exit, and that has given Thompson a chance to sort of run away a little bit. But a little bit more downforce on the number 883 will definitely be of advantage here through Maggotts and Beckett's. That's where this car can really gain some time compared to other cars. Things are really starting to heat up, and the gap up top, that's very, very close. That is exactly, if you take the current gap of Gulzar and Brook and you add them together, that is exactly 10 seconds. So, oh my god, Brook is really hanging on to whether or not he's going to be getting a P2. He really has to start pushing now. Either get around Gulzar or just try to make up time where you can. That is the name of the game right now. Brian Rasco still dealing with Thomas Dagg, having to go defensive here to defend as best he can. His last lap was about 500 slower. Doesn't seem like much. But for these guys, it can be a whole world of difference in the race, especially lap after lap. Just a little bit more and a little bit more gets taken away from your lead. Speaking of leads that are getting lost, it's Braden Thompson starting to lose some time over on Carpenter. Carpenter looked for the inside line, has to go around the outside, but this may be what he wants, as he does get a much better line there through the corner. And again, I think the same thing, trying to get a straighter exit. How well has that worked? I think it's worked quite well, especially with that slipstream in effect. He's pulling in a little bit closer. He is just going to peek down the inside, but he knows that is not going to be the corner he wants to overtake at. Not at that distance. That is going to be heroics and a half for him. Tim Brook with Skylar Lovrink. Thought about the inside line there for a second, but not quite it. And they have this back marker that they have to get around. Lovrink really trying everything he can to get around right now. But Tim Brook not making it easy at all. And that back marker, of course, looking for the best time to let them through. And it looks like it was just now. So there you go. They can continue racing on as though nothing happened. Timothy Flomger, man, look how close Fernandez is. Fernandez absolutely going for this position, number 6. He's going to try to send it around the outside. Just to the right of screen is Flomger. Oh, Fernandez extremely close there, almost into the back of Flomger again, and that is going to completely botch the exit there. Does not get the acceleration out of the corner. I would have backed out a little bit. Braden Thompson. Ooh, Austin Carpenter all over the place. What is happening there? Has he gone for a move that's somehow stuck? We're going to roll this one back really quick. Oh, looks like they both may have had a little bit of a grassy excursion. A little too far back for the button. Oh, and Lamelin has picked up a drive-through penalty. Oh, goodness. If that is for track limits, that is gonna hurt. That is horrendous. If that doesn't get served, that's a 30-second penalty. So from 15 seconds added on to a drive-through, Lamelin's night, it started off okay. You know, you had the jump at the start. That's whatever. You go in to the pits, you serve your 10 seconds, you come back out, you take somebody out accidentally, you pick up 15, and you just get a little too friendly with track limits, and you get dinged for it. Lamelin has 3 laps to serve that penalty. If he doesn't, he is going to be disqualified from this race. That is just how it goes. And that is going from decent to bad to worse for him. Where he ends up, it could be outside of the top 5. It could be within the top 5, albeit barely. It depends on when he comes in and how quickly Flomger can get around the circuit. Brian Rasko still dealing with Thomas Dagg, and Colin Johnson there, you can see that Porsche hungry for some positions. He knows that they fight enough, and maybe they get a little bit too sloppy. They can take each other out. Spencer Brown into the pits. I'm fairly certain that's from earlier, so not quite certain what's going on there. All right, Nate Lamelin into the pit lane. He has to be extremely careful to make sure he doesn't speed, because that is just going to make everything even worse. So we're going to see where he comes out. So there goes Golzar, and there is Brook and Loverink. And I think that is a back marker, and I can hear Flomger and Fernandez. They're going to go on through. Nate Lamelin and even Colin Johnson, I believe. So Lamelin from second all the way up, or all the way down to P7. That is horrendous. And Dagg gonna go for a very late lunge down the inside, and he takes himself out. Colin Johnson, no problem taking P12, and Brian Rasko showing why you can't push the Bentley around. Incredibly planted. It's like a tank out there. When you try to move the thing, it doesn't want to move. And Lamelin picking up 15 more seconds of penalties. Man, the end of this race is where all the chaos starts. It's not at the beginning. It's not in the middle. Flomger overcooks it into the corner. Fernandez thought about a move there for a second and couldn't get around. Flomger still holding on to this position as we go door to door here over the F1 start finish straight into this left-hander. Flomger does have the line, but it's going to be Fernandez. Incredibly brave stuff there to send it down around the outside, then to the inside. Flomger's not done, looks for the inside line, but just gets covered off. Fernandez, take a bow. That was one hell of an overtake, and gets the job done up into P5 for him. Flomger, that top 5 finish was so well done, and he just had to hold on, but just one mistake, and that was all it took to give Fernandez the advantage he needed. And Flomger continuing to struggle with these corners. We hop back here. Keith Briscoe and Austin Carpenter. Seems like no matter where we go, there's a BMW somewhere, either bullying or getting bullied by somebody. And Briscoe finding himself on the receiving end of Carpenter's assault. Carpenter looking for a little bit of a switcheroo. Doesn't work out. That's okay. He can slot back in. He is going to be using what is going to be a bit of a superior car. Try and gain an advantage. Man, 5 minutes to go here in the race, and we are not even close to being done. Brian Rasko, despite having Thomas Dagg, who has fallen down to P14, has not been able to pull away from Johnson as best he thought, especially with Johnson having to get on the brakes to avoid T-boning Dagg earlier on. So besides that, it's Johnson just making up time immediately. No time wasted. Everything under the hood, getting this Porsche sent as best he can. I don't think I'd be too surprised if, we had Johnson go for an overtake towards the end. Rasko's last lap was half a second, but I'm fairly certain that was just because of the scrap with Dagg. Dagg falling behind Frizza, and you actually see in the background, Dagg is trying to make up the time he lost. Could have to settle for that P13 at the checkered flag. Tim Brook pulling away from Fernandez. Okay, so things are not... Loverink is on for a P3, period. Golzar 8.8 seconds back. A 10-second penalty on Harder. So with that 10-second penalty, if, and I do mean if, Harder can not stay beyond 10 seconds, he's losing this position. Golzar gets promoted, Lovering stays. Dag picks up 5-second penalty for that collision with Rasko. I'm sure the stewards might have thought about a 10-second penalty, but we're like, you know what? You spun yourself. Yeah, that's on you, Chief. We're not going to bother with that one. Lamelin, 15 seconds. Briscoe, how far behind is he? 15.5 seconds. Carpenter is 15.5 seconds behind Lamelin, and Carpenter has to fight with Briscoe. So Lamelin could negate this penalty and could finish off in P7. But it's going to take a lot of work. And look at the gap. Golzar is only within a second, realistically, of Harder right now with that 10-second time penalty. Harder could negate. We could see 2 penalties getting negated just because of how quick some of these drivers are. If that isn't a testament to just how skilled some of these guys are, I don't know what is. Same with Dag. He's got a 5-second penalty, but Lucas is 7.3 back. So it seems like no matter where we go, penalties might not matter. Dave Hasser with 10 seconds is 11.5 seconds clear of Wicks. Are penalties just not going to matter? Oh, and Loverink has 10. Loverink has a 10-second penalty. What for? A collision on lap 42? I didn't even see that happen. And the gap down to Brooke is only 7.2 seconds. And Harder starting the final lap. Oh man, Loverink was doing so well. Was doing oh so well. Was on for a podium. Oh, but Golzar has reeled in 2 tenths. Harder could be losing this victory if he can't find 1.2 seconds here towards the end of the race. Lamelin as well could be holding on to P7. Just depends on what the gap is right now. So we'll see as Carpenter crosses the start-finish line. 15.3. Carpenter has to find that 3 tenths. He has to find it somewhere. And Lamelin has to mess something up. Dag is 6.8 ahead of Lutkis. Hasser, 10.8, I believe was the time between Wicks. This is going to be nail-bitingly close. These drivers aren't even close to each other. But just because of penalties, it's going to be excruciatingly close. Darren Wicks, 10.8 seconds is the gap to Dave Hasser. Man, what a race we've had here this evening, the endurance race. The start's always crazy. That big chunk in the middle, always very relaxed. And then, well, it's always the end that surprises you. And what's been surprising is some drivers ending quite a ways down the grid after some earlier incidents. But time is just about to expire. These drivers have enjoyed a nice, dry, bright, and sunny race here at Silverstone. Time has expired. Hayden Harder rounding the final couple of corners. 10 seconds is the gap. But what is the gap to Golzar? He does take the checkered flag, but I don't think it's going to be enough. I think Hamza Golzar is going to win this race just because of the penalties. As he crosses the line, 8.8 seconds. Hamza Golzar takes it at Silverstone just because of penalties. Loverink across the line. But where is Tim Brook? Is it a 10-second gap? That is the question. No, it is not. 8.2. Loverink is going to miss out on a podium finish. Absolutely heartbreaking. Lamelin in P7. Carpenter. Is there a 15-second gap? 15.2 seconds. Lamelin holds on to P7. That is incredibly close. Briscoe in 9th. Thompson in 10th. Dave Hasser in 19th. We'll hold it. 10.2 is the gap to Wicks. Man, that is extremely close. And we look to Thomas Dag. He has 5 seconds. And Tadas Lutkas, I don't think he's close enough to take advantage of that. No, 5.9. So we have only one driver. Only one driver, as everybody parks it up, does some donuts. We have one driver that's getting dinged for their penalty. That is Hayden Harder. I don't believe Loverink is going to be... Oh, Loverink might actually be P6. You may be right. Yeah, Loverink down to P6. Sam Wise, thank you for being smarter than me. I mean, that's not saying much, everyone is, but thank you for calling that one. Man. So Hamza Galzar is going to take this win off of penalties. Harder gets demoted to P2, and Brooke is P3. Loverink, if that 10-second penalty wasn't there, that would have been a P4 finish, but unfortunately it's a P6. But what a race we had. Dag gets to keep his P14 because of that penalty, and Dave Hasser gets to keep his position because of his penalty not being enough to override his efforts. Lamlin as well there. 15 is just, I think, no, wait, 14 and a half? Oh, no, that might be because of Loverink, actually, excuse me. So, yeah, I think Lamlin gets to hold on to P7. It's been, man, it has been crazy here right at the end. But, ladies and gentlemen, we are going to take a look at the final standings here. So, overall, it is Hamza Golzar on top following the 10-second time penalty from Harder. That gap is now 1.184 seconds. Penalties applied, and then Tim Brook onto the top step, or onto the third step of the podium, rather. In the Pro-Am category, Keith Briscoe takes home bragging rights ahead of Thompson and Johnson, the German manufacturers of BMW and Porsche, taking those top 3 steps for the Pro-Am category. And then for the amateur drivers, it's Mahoney that gets to show that that big old Bentley, well, she's got some speed under the hood. Darren Wicks in P2, Sam Raworth, man, what a race he had, not one he wants to remember, as he takes P3. And then, of course, the Simrigs safety car in a class of its own. Just way too good. That's why we don't let it out on track, because, man, it would just do numbers. Speaking of Simrigs, one final thank you, of course, to Simrigs for sponsoring Season 11 of the Sprint Series. You guys already know what they're all about. Anything sim racing related in terms of equipment, they've got you covered. If you're in Australia, New Zealand, this Melbourne-based company, everything you're going to need, no problems, just place your order and, well, they'll help you out. If you're an OR patron, of course, you get 5% off. Take advantage of that. Sim racing equipment, not cheap at all. And if you're like me and you live in North America, or maybe live in Europe, or pretty much anywhere else in the world that isn't those 2 countries I listed earlier, send them an email, work something out, and I'm sure they'd be more than happy to give you some equipment, obviously in exchange for currency. But that is going to do it for us tonight. So these drivers are off, I believe, or I don't think they're off next week. We're going to be at the Nürburgring. We'll be back on schedule. No races are getting swapped around as far as I know. And then, of course, in less than 24 hours, in fact, 23 hours, we are going to be having the 9 hours of Kyalami here. I will be in the booth, of course, giving my commentary as I always do. A few other guys, we're still sorting out the stints for that, but we hope to see you there. It's going to be exciting. Always a great track to race at for Kyalami. But ladies and gentlemen, on behalf of myself and everybody here at the OOR, we'd like to thank you so much for stopping by. Hope you enjoyed your stay. But until next time, stay safe, stay beautiful, and try to avoid those penalties.
safe.